Good afternoon, everyone. Is that me or somebody else? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our July Cabinet meeting. It's great to see so many people here today joining us on this very hot day. So, firstly then, we'll move to item number 1 on our agenda, which is apologies for absence. And I believe that we've got apologies.
Jane, I'm not sure if you're speaking, but none of us can hear you.
Let's see.
Sorry, Jane, it's James. I'll put my camera on.
Can you hear me now, James? Can you hear that?
Jane, if you can hear me, it says in the corner that the chambers is muted.
So we can't hear a thing our end.
Can we unmute then?
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay. So, shall I start again? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our July Cabinet meeting. It's great to see so many people joining us here today on this very, very warm summer's day. So we start with item number 1 on our agenda, which are apologies for absence, and I believe we've got apologies from Councillor Forsey. Are there any other apologies?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 then, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in relation to any items we may be discussing today?
Thanks, Leader. I have a declaration of interest when it comes up to the electric transport. As Chair of Newport Transport, I will have a...
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Harvey. Item number 3 on our agenda then are the minutes from the 15th of June Cabinet. These are in pages 3 to 12 of the packs that have been distributed to elected members. Obviously, you've all had an opportunity to consider the minutes, so is somebody content to move these minutes as a true record of our meeting?
Happy to move, Leader.
Second.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Everyone content with that?
Yes, they did.
We'll move on to item number 4 on our agenda today then. Item number 4 can be found in pages 13 to 40 of the packs that are distributed to members. And this is the 2021-22 Revenue Budget Outturn Report. And this report explains the Council's financial position for the year ending the 31st of March 2022 and lists end-of-year reserve transfers for Cabinet's review and approval. So the revenue outturn shows an underspend of £18.4 million after planned transfers to and from earmarked reserves, which represents a 6% variance against budget. The 2021-22 underspend of £18 million has arisen, in the main, due to changes in service provision and working practices caused by COVID, and the receipt of a significant one-off Welsh Government funds over and above those funds claimed via the Hardship Fund. Now, specifically, this relates to finance in addition to the financial assistance from the Local Government Emergency Hardship Fund, some unexpected grant income received from Welsh Government late in the year, resulting in core spend being displaced and funded via external grant, therefore increasing the overall underspend. The additional funding was in the region of £6 million. In addition to this, there have been significant underspends across all services in relation to staff savings resulting from recruitment delays and planned and normal services not being undertaken due to the prioritisation of COVID response work. Linked to the above, colleagues, we've seen an underspend against the General Revenue Contingency Budget and the Council Tax Reduction Scheme, as well as a surplus in relation to the Council tax income. Unanticipated capital grants at the end of the year also impacted on the Council's borrowing requirement, therefore creating an underspend against the capital financing budget. These are all non-service budget areas. Whilst there has been a significant underspend overall, there have, however, been some one-off and recurring issues that have been raised within the report that will be addressed by officers. For example, the delivery of savings. Whilst 94% of the savings target was achieved in 2021-22, there have been delays in implementation due to the impact of COVID, and robust plans are needed to ensure that these savings are fully delivered for 2022-23. Heading into 2022-23, there are a number of risks being monitored by the executive team which have the potential to impact upon the financial position this year. Section 4 of the report explains in detail the areas that currently present the most significant risk. Moving then to our schools position, colleagues, as school variances are managed via individual schools balances, the overall underspend of 18 million does not include the schools position. For 2021-22, schools collectively underspent by 6.1 million, which will see school balances increase from 9.6 million to 15.7 million as of the 31st of March 2022. Schools made significant in-year savings, and again, colleagues, this is mainly due to over £4.8 million of unexpected grants being received late in year. The projected school balances have improved significantly in 2021-22, and this is largely due to that one-off non-recurring grant income. However, it is anticipated that schools will utilise a large proportion of their balances during 2022-23 to deliver upon the requirements of that grant funding. Therefore, colleagues, schools will need to robustly monitor and manage their budgets effectively to ensure financial sustainability going forward with their core funding. Now, turning to the use of the underspend. As part of this meeting, as a Cabinet, we're being asked to approve the use of this underspend. Having this one-off funding available is extremely helpful to help the city recover from the impacts of COVID and for us to invest in other priorities. Although the full extent of the underspend will not be allocated at this point, consideration has been given to a range of issues, including investing in local communities' infrastructure to encourage greater pride and cohesion, and protecting the Council's financial resilience and achievement of its priorities by enhancing its risk mitigation reserves. Following this overview of our financial position, Section 5 of the report details how the 18 million is to be utilised. In order to allow the Cabinet sufficient time to carefully consider the full extent of the in-year underspend, a residual balance of almost 8 million will be allocated by Cabinet during our September or October meeting. For now, I would like to mention a few of the one-off investments as they are really important. Colleagues, we're proposing to invest £2.5 million for parks and open spaces, in addition to the £300,000 permanent funding over 2 years to maintain play areas and equipment, as agreed as part of the 2022-23 budget. Additional resource is being allocated to support the positive health benefits of being outdoors and spending time in green spaces. £500,000 investment in domiciliary care support, and this will be set aside to enable a response to increasing domiciliary care support service capacity through funding driving lessons and providing access to electric vehicles. £7.5 million is to be allocated to the existing MTFP reserve to support current and future budget risks. The total reserves balance at the 31st of March 2022, following the transfers set out in the report, will increase to £149 million. and the significant movements that relate to this have been summarised within section 5 of the report. So, colleagues, this is our revenue budget outturn report. I've presented the report to you, and you've all had an opportunity to consider the detail of the report. Before we turn to the proposal and we make a decision upon the proposals, I'd like to open to questions. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they'd like to make on the report? Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. I essentially wanted to comment in relation to the education budget, which you referred to earlier, in regard to the significant in-year savings that were made, and specifically in relation to the grant fund settlements of £4.8 million that were made very late in the financial year. That substantially contributed to this, but it's got to be noted that these grants must be specifically sent on catch-up initiatives in schools. There's a specific focus on wellbeing with using those grants post-COVID, as well as work on maintenance within schools. So therefore, schools, we need to continue within schools to continue to robustly monitor and manage our budgets to ensure that financial sustainability is maintained going forward. Consequently, I welcome the Head of Finance's recommendation that a robust monitoring process supported by our executive team, who will continue to work closely with our education management to review the financial management of our schools in detail. And this is the same approach that's worked well in the past year in supporting our schools, and which I know this approach was really welcomed. It's a supportive approach is what's key to this. This has actually already enabled all those schools who had a deficit budget to be no longer in this position. It gives cause for celebration, but sustainability in going forward is fundamental to ensuring that none of our schools return again to this position. So it's a situation where we have to need to continue to closely monitor. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for your contribution there, highlighting some very important points. Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to offer my support for this proposal, especially the proposal with regards to the community cohesion and grants for communities. I think if COVID showed us anything, it was that we do need to, work all together, and that community is everything. So it's nice to see that we're putting some money into these community funds. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Petruni.
Thank you, Leader. It was to welcome the budget, and I agree with its proposals. And just to note, the heavy investment going to our parks is showing our commitment to green space, to the environment in our city, which is critical for an urban environment. And I know it's one of your passions, Leader. And I know one of our cabinet members, who sadly can't be with us at this moment in this meeting, is passionate about it as well, as all of us are. But also the prudent financial planning of boosting our reserves, given the economic uncertainty we all face, all local authorities across the whole country. And I think it's really prudent that we are bolstering our reserves in this time as we head into the winter. So I really warmly welcome this budget.
Thank you very much for those very supportive comments. Thank you. I can't see who's indicating because Okay, so are there any further comments on this particular item? No? Okay, thank you very much then, colleagues, for your contributions there. So the proposal is that we note the outturn position, which is subject to audit, and note the major variances for the year. We approve the use of the underspend and other reserve transfers as set out in section 5 of the report, and we note the school's outturn and the position on the individual and total schools reserves. Are members content to do so? Everyone happy with that?
Happy with that, Leader, thank
Yeah.
Happy.
Yes.
Yeah, content.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you all very much for that. And thank you also to the officers for their extreme diligence in compiling this report for us. We move to item 5 now, staying with finance. This is the 2021-22 Capital Outturn and Additions report. And colleagues, you can find this report on pages 41 to 66 of your packs. Now, the purpose of this report is to provide Cabinet the final capital outturn for the 2021-22 financial year, to request Cabinet approval for the carry forward of unused budget to facilitate project expenditure in 2022-23 financial year, to submit to Cabinet for approval requests for new capital projects to be added to the Council's capital programme, and to update the Cabinet on the current available capital resources. So since the last report received by Cabinet in January of this year, a number of additions and amendments have been made to the programme, and these are outlined in Appendix A. Most of these take the form of new grant-funded schemes, and their addition resulted in a total 2021-22 budget of 67.7 million, compared to a budget of 57.5 million as at November. Included within these additions were grant allocations from Welsh Government for free school meal kitchen works and bus electrification, which required the Council to use this against existing expenditure, displacing the Council's planned funding in the process. This displaced funding will be carried forward into 2022-23 for use in line with the Welsh Government's planned intentions. As well as these additions and amendments, slippage totalling 13.9 million was reported at the end of the year. This slippage total also included the effect of the displaced funding just referenced. The slippage occurred due to a number of reasons, including the effects of inclement weather, supply chain challenges, and some overly optimistic profiling where schemes were initially added to the programme. Slippage for the whole year, including that approved earlier in the year, totalled £60 million. This resulted in a final budget of 53.79 million, against which a final spend of 52.7 million was recorded, reflecting a net underspend of 1.12 million. This net underspend included some small overspends, more than offset by underspends, most of which were the result of not being able to fully utilise grant funding awarded by Welsh Government for specific schemes. And now the report also outlines the current position in relation to the available capital headroom. Having been updated for several recently approved commitments, the total headroom now stands at 2.35 million, comprised of the following: 57,000 borrowing headroom, 258,000 uncommitted capital expenditure reserve after allowing for 2.04 million of uncommitted capital receipts. In the case of borrowing headroom, recent commitments against this and the include the increased budget for the Transporter Bridge project and the information station, as well as a decommitted renewable energy scheme, which is no longer deliverable. In addition, the provisional commitment for the Northern Gateway scheme has been removed, and a provisional commitment for the Levelling Up Fund Round 2 bid has been included. Other potential commitments against the overall headroom include the Council's share of the demolition costs for Newport Centre and additional funding to take the overall Band B funding envelope to £90 million. This overall amount of headroom, which has steadily reduced over recent years, will need to be carefully managed and monitored in order to ensure that it can be utilised when needed for the most critical issues prior to the new capital programme coming into existence in 2023-24. The report also outlines the current total budget for 2022-23, which currently stands at £117 million. This is considerably more than has been spent in previous years and will potentially be a challenge for the Council to deliver in full. Therefore, there is a risk of slippage, and in anticipation of that, work is currently ongoing to revise the current expenditure profile across all services in anticipation of a more realistic profile being presented. This is going to be an important piece of work going forwards, as it will inform the Council's actual borrowing for the year and ensure that the Council doesn't undertake borrowing any earlier than actually required. So, colleagues, I've been through an overview of the report with you, and you've all had an opportunity to go through the report in detail. Before we move to the recommendations of the report, I'd like to open for comments. Would anybody like to make a contribution on this item or comment on the report? Councillor Batruni.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to emphasise the importance of the reprofiling exercise. The slippage has just been due to circumstance that every local authority has faced. Everyone knows about the supply chain issues that the world is facing. And I think it's really prudent move to reprofile and just to be realistic about what can and cannot be delivered. And actually, it's always healthy to reprioritise in the current climate, because the world is changing so fast, to understand what is a priority for us, what can be delivered in the timescale that is acceptable to us and to the residents of Newport. So I really welcome the reprofiling exercise. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for your constructive and supportive contribution there, Councillor Batruni. Would any other colleagues like to comment on this item? So we'll move then to the proposal, if there are no further comments. And the proposal is, colleagues, that we approve the additions to the capital programme requested in the report. We approve the slippage of 13.9 million from the 2021-22 budget into future years, noting the reprofiling of the programme that this gives rise to, that we note the capital expenditure outturn position for 21-22, and to note the available remaining capital resources and the earmarked usage of that resourcing. Are members content to agree the proposals in the report?
Happy with
Yes.
that, Leader.
Yes, Leader, content.
Yep.
Content.
Thank you very much for that, colleagues. Move then to item number 6 on our agenda today, which is the Shared Prosperity Fund. And the information in relation to this particular item can be found on pages 67 to 94 of your packs. Now, the purpose of this report is to update Cabinet on the UK Government Shared Prosperity Fund as part of the UK Government's Levelling Up programme. Now, and there are some associated proposals that we need to consider in relation to this. So in April 2022, the UK Government published details of the new £2.6 billion Shared Prosperity Fund, which seeks to support the Government's levelling up objectives. These objectives seek to boost productivity, pay, jobs and living standards by growing the private sector, especially in places where they are lagging, to spread opportunities and improve public services, especially in places where they are weakest, to restore a sense of community, local pride and belonging, especially in places where they've been lost, and empower local leaders and communities, especially in those places lacking local agency. In order to do this, the Shared Prosperity Fund has 3 investment priorities, and these priorities are communities in place, supporting local business, and people and skills. There's also a fund called Multiply, which seeks to improve adult numeracy skills. The primary goal of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is to build pride in place and increase life chances across the UK. The fund is intended to align with and complement the Levelling Up Fund, for which Newport's Round 2 proposals to develop a national technology institute in the heart of our city were approved for submission by Cabinet in June. The Shared Prosperity Fund has been allocated to places across the UK on a needs basis, and the 10 local authorities in the Cardiff Capital Region have received a combined conditional allocation of over £230 million and just over £48 million for Multiply. In terms of Newport's allocation, we're expected to receive just over £27 million for core spend and a further £5.6 million for Multiply over the next 3 years. Now, colleagues, in order to draw down this funding, all local authorities within the Cardiff Capital Region are required to develop one regional investment plan for the whole region. This investment plan will set the high-level framework of interventions which will be delivered and developed at the local level. I do need to stress at this point, colleagues, that the development of the Regional Investment Plan is the beginning of the Shared Prosperity Fund process. It's a strategic plan which identifies the overarching interventions that relate to the 3 investment priorities of the fund across the region. Not all regional interventions will be relevant to Newport, but this overarching strategy enables us to start understanding what our local priorities are and develop a local delivery plan in partnership with our communities and stakeholders. The Regional Investment Plan will need to be submitted to UK Government by the 1st of August. As part of this process, there is a need to appoint one local authority to assume the role of lead local authority for administration purposes. And it is proposed that Rhondda Cynon Taff County Borough Council performs this role. There is still much work to do in terms of some of the governance that sits alongside the administration of the funding, and this will be overseen by the Head of Law and Standards. But what is clear is that Newport is set to benefit from significant funding for our communities, for our businesses, and to ensure that our residents have the skills that they need to prosper. We will soon embark upon meaningful and inclusive engagement with our residents and communities to make sure that we know what matters most to them. It is important that we as a Cabinet know what the priorities of our residents are and that we develop a local delivery plan that supports those priorities. Colleagues, this report marks the first step to securing the funding that Newport deserves. At this point, I'd just like to pause before we consider the proposals contained in the report and invite comments from colleagues. Would anybody like to make a contribution on this item? Councillor Petruni.
Thank you, Leader. It was to note that the UK government have not lived up to their pledges to Wales. Their overall shortfall to Wales replacing European structural funds is 1.1 billion. And I just want it to be noted that we think Wales should be fairly funded, and that includes Newport residents and Newport. But we've taken a pragmatic approach, and I think it should be welcome that we're the grown-ups. We have looked at the funding. We've all going to work together across all different political groups to make this funding work, but that Wales should be funded appropriately to the funds it had with the European structural funds. And the UK government should look into improving the offer by 1.1 billion as set out by the Welsh Government.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Councillor Petruni. Wholeheartedly agree with you. Would any other colleagues like to comment? Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to support Councillor Petruni in the comments that he's making. In that, look, you look at ESF funding over the last few years and the billions of support that has come into particularly East Wales as a region, and the level of support of to our skills and work and the workforce and preparedness for work. The amount of funding and support that came from that enabled our residents and our young people to actually develop, specifically looking at our needs, because it is a concern. But I agree with Councillor Petruni, the pragmatic approach that we're taking as a region will hopefully will ensure that this money is well spent and appropriately spent to benefit our residents in Newport and across the region. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. Any other comments from colleagues? Okay, if there are no further comments or contributions, I'll move to the proposal, and that is that we endorse Rhondda and Taff County Borough Council as the lead authority for the UK SPF for the Cardiff Capital Region and submit the Regional Investment Plan by the 1st of August 2022, and to delegate powers to the Head of Law and Standards to agree the legal agreements associated with the UK SPF with the lead local authority on behalf of Newport City Council. Are colleagues content to agree that?
Happy with that, Leader.
Agreed, Leader.
Content.
Content.
Thank you very much for your support for that item, colleagues. We move then to item number 7 on our agenda today. This is an update on our local replacement local development plan, the vision, issues and objectives. This is on pages 95 to 306 of your packs, so there's a wealth of support and information for this, and this, of course, marks another important stage in our progression along the way in terms of developing our new replacement LDP. So, Cabinet Member, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Hopefully my connection, you can all hear me. Okay, just to give you a quick overview of where we actually are at the moment. It should take a couple of minutes, but hopefully it'll be a clear vision of where we are. So, as a council, we've already agreed to start work on a replacement local development plan. And as colleagues may be aware, the process to adopt a new development plan takes at least 3.5–4 years. There are many stages and tasks to complete, but a really important part of the process is stakeholder engagement and consultation. We need to know how people see our city developing and function over the course of the next 15 years. And the report before you outlines the most recent stage of engagement which has been undertaken. The local development plan, like all strategies, needs a vision. It needs a clear sense of direction to get us the Newport we want to be in 2036. But in order to develop a vision, we must understand what our current context is and also take into account what has changed since we adopted the last plan in 2015. We know a lot has changed. For example, climate change and active travel are not a focus of the existing plan, but they're very important to us now. Whilst air quality and flood risk were an integral part of the current plan, we know there have been significant policy changes since 2015, which need to be properly viewed in a new plan. All these important issues have been reflected in the proposed vision and objectives, but it is important that we ask our stakeholders and residents to question, have we missed anything? So from January to March this year, we worked with Planning Aid Wales to undertake a number of stakeholder engagement events with groups such as community councils, developers and environmental groups. We also held 2 public engagement events in our neighbourhood hubs across the city to ensure that we captured as many views as possible. As a result, we received 33 responses on our proposed vision, issues and objectives, all of which are set out in detail in Appendix A in your report. Planning Aid Wales also provided a really well presented feedback report, which can also be found within Appendix B of the report. As you will see, people have taken the time to respond and share their views, and it is important to acknowledge and thank everyone for taking the time and effort to participate in this process. Overall, the response was positive, and many recognise our city's potential as a national growth area. Other comments focused on more detailed changes to wording, but overall, it felt that people agreed with our level of ambition, flexibility and scope. However, we have made some minor changes to reflect the feedback, and these are set out for you in Appendix C. We are still at the start of the replacement plan process, and Cabinet will receive a number of updates and reports as each stage progresses. But for now, I would like Cabinet to agree the vision and objectives as set out in this report. This will enable us to progress to the next stage, which is the growth option stage. This is a very important stage and where we start to develop more of the detail on where local growth should be, not only for housing, but for employment land. This is timely given the recent census data that shows Newport having the highest percentage of population increase in Wales since 2011. Hopefully we'll be updating Cabinet at this stage later this year, but for now, I would recommend we approve the proposed visions and objectives. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Councillor Clark. And I have to say that the team should really be commended for the excellent presentation of the information contained in that report. They've really done a sterling job there working with Planning Aid Wales to gather that data and present it to us. So through you, Cabinet Member, please feed back to the team my thanks for the excellent work that they've done bringing us to this point. I'll now open to comments, and Deputy Leader, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Leader. I completely agree with your comments. It's fantastic to see the huge amount of work that's gone into ensure that our residents have the opportunity to contribute to the development of this vision. And it's great now that we've actually got such a plethora of comments that will actually underpin the proposed vision in going forward. What I actually see as fundamental in the vision that's been developed, or the proposed vision, is that each objective defines our aspirations as a city, and I think we need to emphasise the word city. What we know is that we're an expanding city and we're a gateway to Wales. But importantly, we now have the maturity and the confidence and the ability to hold our own on both the national and international stage. We're able to attract businesses who to base themselves here. And it's important that our residents continue to have ownership of that vision. This is their vision that they've helped to develop. And it's important that they're able to look at this vision, they see it for themselves, and they and their families can be proud of living within our city that has culturally diverse, and they know that it's their city that provide them with opportunities to improve their quality of life. There are so many different ways this is going to happen, and it's still already happening, and that's through our schools, our local businesses, housing, green spaces, and importantly, it's our focus on carbon reduction and sustainability, which is fundamental. Sustainability is fundamental to all of this. So I think the vision, as we move to approve it, I think it's an excellent vision in going forward. Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much for your constructive and supportive comments there, Deputy Leader. Councillor Petruni.
Thank you, Leader. I wish to highlight the importance of Appendix C, as highlighted by Councillor Clark, because it not only shows that it's a consultation, but we do make changes. And this is only the start of those changes. And if you look at those changes, they're around air quality, water quality, and a real emphasis on the ecology of Newport City. And I think that's the key about balancing the economy and our ecology. And I just want to ask Councillor Clark if he agrees with me that it is doable. It's not easy, but we're not taking the easy solutions. We're taking the hard path, which is we can grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time. And would you agree with me that it's achievable?
If I can come in there, Leader, absolutely. It is going to be tough. But us as a group and a Labour group, we're used to that. And we understand how we have to dig deep on this, but it is going to be achievable. And it's something which we shouldn't shy away from, and something we embrace and take it at each stage. But 100% agree with you. It is achievable. It is going to be tough, but it's something to look forward to as well.
Councillor Harvey, would you like to come in?
Thanks, Leader. I just fully support Councillor Clark on his presentation today. It's a good presentation and thoroughly support him 100%.
Thank you very much for your supportive comments there, Councillor Harvey. Would anybody else like to comment or contribute to this? Okay, well, Councillor Clark, thank you very much for presenting this to us. I will move to the proposal now today. So, Cabinet, we're asked to note that the consultation comments received on the draft vision, issues and objectives and endorse the proposed responses. Are colleagues content to do so?
Absolutely fine, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Leader.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thanks once again, Councillor Clark. I have every confidence that with your leadership, that is definitely something that is achievable. So thank you very much for your contribution there. We move on then to item number 8 on our agenda today, which is our Welsh Language Annual Report. This is on pages 307 to 336 of your packs. And colleagues, this is our annual monitoring report, which sets out Newport City Council's progress against our Welsh language commitments during the financial year 2020-2021. As you may be aware, colleagues, as a council, we are required to report annually on our progress in complying with the Welsh language standards under the Welsh Language Measure to 2011. So this report provides an overview of our progress in meeting the standards. It includes information required by law to be published on an annual basis, a summary of our key achievements during the year and priority areas for future work. I know that you've all had an opportunity, colleagues, to consider the report, but I would like to highlight some important aspects that are contained within it. For example, our work with our refugee, migrant and minority ethnic communities to better embed the Welsh language as part of a shared sense of identity across the city, particularly within the context of the development of our 4th Welsh medium primary school. We improved, developed and began to deliver a new Welsh language skills policy, and processes have now been implemented and put in place to allow delivery next year. We've also engaged and consulted with key stakeholders and our communities to inform the development of our new 5-year Welsh language strategy, which has been passed with the full support of Council. We've developed creative partnership arrangements outside of the public and voluntary sector to raise the profile of the Welsh language across Newport, including working with Dragons Rugby and Newport County AFC to promote the Welsh language. And of course, colleagues, the report also identifies priorities for the next reporting period, including working with stakeholders and partners to deliver the new 5-year Welsh language strategy. We'll further engage with Newport's diverse communities to promote the Welsh language, raise awareness and visibility of the language, and continue to develop Welsh medium education and the inclusivity of the language. We will embed our new performance management structure across the Council and roll out our newly developed Welsh language training videos to all staff. We will continue to scope and consider Welsh language courses for lapsed speakers or those who need a confidence boost. So I'm really pleased, colleagues, to provide you with an overview of this report today, because it does highlight the really positive progress that we've made so far. At this point in our meeting, though, it would be remiss of me not to invite Councillor Hughes, who's been a champion for the Welsh language within the authority, to comment. Councillor Hughes, would you like to come in?
Diolch yn fawr, Leader. Before I start, I'd just like to remind you that under your leadership, we presented the first speech in the Welsh language at Cabinet, and I'm going to do the same again today. But also how things are changing, Leader. We had the 20th anniversary of the festival in Caerleon this weekend, And on the stage, we had Welsh language bands playing. We had Welsh openly spoken throughout the festival. And even in our own members now, we have been joined by further Welsh speakers. So it's really indicative of how things are changing in our city. And that's a reflection of the progress being made. So I'll start in Welsh and then proceed in English if that's okay. So, Prynhawn da cyfeillion. Fel hyrwyddwr aelod etholedig dros y Gymraeg am llynedd rwy'n falch o gefnogi gwaith ein swyddogion wrth hyrwyddo'r Gymraeg ac wrth godi profil y Gymraeg o fewn y cyngor ar draws ein cymunedau. Rwy'n fod yn rhan o'r broses grant Cymraeg yn y gymuned. Roedd yn arbennig o galonodol gweld faint o ddiddordeb a cheisiadau eithriadol gan grwpiau cymunedol ledled Casnewydd i gynyddu'r defnydd o'r Gymraeg ac ei hymwyddiadiaeth ar gweledoedd ar draws holl ddinasyddion Casnewydd, gan gynnwys y rhai sy'n newydd i'r ddinas a Chymru. Mae'r adroddiad yn tynnu sylw at rai meysydd o'r gynnydd gwynibeddol ynghyd â'r rhai blaenoreithiau allweddol ar gyfer y flwyddyn nesaf. A ddwy hwnt ac edrychaf ymlaen i weld sut mae'r Gymraeg yn cael ei chroesawu gan holl ddinasyddion Casnewydd, a sut mae'n ein gweledigaeth o gweld, clywed, dysgu, defnyddio, caru a cefnogi'r Cymraeg fel iaith fyw ym mhob man o fwyd o draws y ddinas. So as elected member champion for the Welsh language for last year, I'm proud to support the work of our officers in promoting the Welsh language and in raising the profile of Welsh within the council and across our communities. Through being involved with the Welsh in the community's grants process, it was exceptionally encouraging to see the amount of interest and exceptional applications from the community groups across Newport to increase the use, awareness and visibility of the Welsh language across all Newport citizens, including those new to the city and indeed new to Wales. The report highlights some areas of real progress along with some key priorities for the next year and beyond, and I really look forward to seeing how the Welsh language is embraced across all Newport citizens and how the vision of see, hear, learn, use and love supports Welsh as a living language in all parts of life across our city. Thank you, Leader.
Diolch, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Petruni, as Cabinet Member, would you like to comment on this particular item?
I would, and thank you, Leader. And I just want to pay testament to the Welsh Language Champion, Councillor Hughes, who, from what I can read of the report, because I was only elected in May, has done an amazing job over the last year, and to the previous Cabinet Member who led this agenda. The community grants work has been phenomenal. The Welsh Language Promotion Officer was appointed and doing some great work as well. But it's also to bear in mind that we're not perfect, but we are going to focus ruthlessly, as well I'm Cabinet Member, to improve, to see where we're not good and to ruthlessly focus on that and deliver a better service and a better outcome for the Welsh language in the city, because the Welsh language is central to the Welsh identity and is a demonstration of us being a proud Welsh city. Although we have great strong links to England, we are a proud Welsh city, and central to that is the Welsh language. So for things like the Say Something in Welsh app, which due to COVID pressures, officers couldn't dedicate a huge amount of time over the last couple of years, we will be re-looking at that and other projects to promote the Welsh language in the city. And you can be assured with me as the Cabinet Member that that will be the agenda going forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Petruni, for your commitment there. Deputy Leader, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Leader. And it's in relation to the work that our Welsh Language Promotions Officer has done to support our education officers to develop the Welsh Language Strategic Education Plan. A tremendous amount of work has gone into this, and I know that's previously come to Cabinet, and it had approval of ourselves, but it's now currently sat with Welsh Government. We're waiting for their approval. But what I do know, it should be coming back to us shortly, but what I do know is so far we've had extremely positive feedback from that. And that's thanks to the work from our Welsh Language Promotions Officer. And I'd just like to convey my thanks to him for that, because it sets us well in going forward and supporting our Welsh medium education within our Welsh schools and within mainstream education as well. The prospects are looking very positive. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. And you highlight a really important aspect of this, and that is our commitment as a local authority to the further development of the Welsh language across the whole of the city, for all of our citizens to engage with and participate within. So thank you very much for highlighting the important work that is going on with that in relation to our schools. Any further comments from colleagues? So the proposal then in relation to this report is that we approve the final monitoring report, which is attached to our papers, and approve this and agree its publication on the website in accordance with statutory deadlines. Are colleagues content to do so?
Agreed.
Yes.
Content.
Okay, thank you very much for your support and your contributions there, colleagues. Moving then to item number 9, Welsh Government consultation, one network, one timetable, one ticket, planning buses as a public service for Wales, our Newport City Council response. And the information in relation to this particular item is found in pages 337 to 362 of your packs, colleagues. So the purpose of the report is an update on the proposed response to the proposed legislative changes to bus planning and procurement, which do have potential implications for the Council and for bus service provision, and to seek approval to submit the response as attached in Appendix A. Now, this is a response to a Welsh Government consultation related to the bus industry, titled One Network, One Timetable, One Ticket, Planning Bus Services in Wales. The Welsh Government, in their strategic planning approach, including the Transport Strategy for Wales, is continuing their effort to support and encourage us all to travel more sustainably through promoting active travel and the use of public transport. We support those aims and note the benefits that they would bring to our climate emergency work. The bus industry is primarily a commercial industry, but is subsidised by Welsh Government and local authorities. The public funding for the industry does not mean that there is a significant level of control on service provision, although in Newport we do work well with our operators. To align with Welsh Government aspirations, the consultation relates to proposed changes to the industry from a commercial operation to a franchise system. As a City Council, as a Cabinet, we're happy to contribute to the consultation, but with the information that we've received to date, we are concerned that there are a number of significant risks associated with these proposals. There is potential for the public sector to have increased financial risk. There's potential for a reduction in service provision and local accountability. There are potential consequences for home-to-school transport operations. And with our municipal transport operator, there are risks to the future of the business. The White Paper has limited detail that relates to how these risks would be practically mitigated. Within the consultation, there is a regulatory impact assessment, and we have concerns with the values within that assessment. We've worked with our colleagues in Cardiff Capital Region, and we're involved with a piece of work currently being undertaken by KPMG to interrogate the assessment. Now, it is intended, colleagues, to incorporate that work into our response to Welsh Government. It's important to emphasise that these concerns do not mean that we don't support the aspirations in the consultation. We completely support the improvement of services and improvements to the passenger experience within the bus industry. However, at present, we do feel that more detail and information is needed to ensure that we can all be comfortable with any change and that any changes to services will be beneficial for all stakeholders and communities. And I would note at this point, colleagues, that since our report has been drafted, Welsh Government have published their legislative timetable for the forthcoming year, and introduction of the bus bill has now been deferred into the following year, which will only act to increase the level of uncertainty currently being experienced for all stakeholders. So I'd just like to open at this point for any comments or contributions on this particular item, and I'll turn firstly to the Cabinet Member, Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Leader. Wales is a country which has a varied population across its areas and not one size fits all. With this programme, local knowledge is vital, and we need to look at this on a local and regional basis, as well as considering the whole national picture. My primary concern with this consultation is that it relates to the lack of detail, as you've already said. We as a local authority have considerable experience in working with operators and ensuring the provision of public transport. Centralising with Transport for Wales would reduce the capacity and experience of the LA. In addition, Transport for Wales has limited experience in this overall area. The proposed model places significant financial risk with the public sector and no incentives for operators to increase into the market. There are also no provisions in this paper for home-to-school transport, and as this is the responsibility of the LA, we need to ensure that we are using the best possible option, and franchising again could increase risks in this area. Within our city, we also have a municipal bus company that is effective and innovative in its approach to service provision, and we would want to ensure that Newport Transport is appropriately considered within this consultation. We would all want to see improvements in our public transport service and support the consultation's aims in that regard. Not only can we give a better outcome for our communities, it will assist in our climate emergency work. That said, whilst franchising can be useful, there are concerns with the consultation. We would want to continue our engagement with Welsh Government to seek more detail on the proposals so that we can be sure that the outcome is a positive one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Councillor Lacey. And you really highlight within your contribution a very important concern and very relevant to the consultation response, and that is the limited experience of Transport for Wales within this particular arena. And I'm sure we can learn lessons from the experience of Transport for Wales in the implementation of rail reform across Wales, and that's an important indicator, I feel, in terms of the strength of some of the Welsh Government proposals. So any further comments from colleagues in relation to this item?
I would love to count Leader, but I'm not allowed. But as you can imagine, yes, I do have plenty to say on it.
Okay, well, all I can say, Councillor Harvey, is thank you so much for your declaration of interest at the start of the meeting. So, shall we move then, colleagues, to the proposal? So, colleagues, we're just being asked to note the issues that have been identified and progress to date in preparing our response, and to delegate authority to the Leader and Cabinet Member to amend and approve the final consultation submission once supporting information is available. So we've highlighted to you today, colleagues, the ongoing work, the interrogation of some of the proposals by KPMG, and we await the outcomes of that work. Are members content with the proposal?
Yeah.
Yeah, content.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very, very much for your support on that item. We move then to item number 10 on our agenda today, which is on pages 363 to 374 of your packs. And this is an update really on post-EU transition and key issues arising from that. You will recall, colleagues, over the last 2 years, we've had standing items on our agenda relating to our COVID response, COVID recovery, and also to EU transition. We will continue to have a standing item on the agenda in relation to the post-EU transition and key issues arising from that. So, this report that we've got before us today does provide a summary of the work that we've undertaken alongside partners and communities to respond and recover from the COVID pandemic. It contains information on the external impacts of the economy and the post-EU transition position of our communities. Now, over the past few months, COVID transmission rates have remained low across our communities. However, colleagues, and as I'm sure you're all aware, this is featured in the news again today, COVID cases have started to increase again due to 2 new variants. Now, naturally, within this, settings such as hospitals are taking action to prevent transmission and to protect vulnerable people through reintroducing face masks and other necessary measures. It's really important for us all, in fact, we've got a significant responsibility when it comes to this, to really emphasise to our residents that it is still important to remain vigilant, and if residents are experiencing COVID symptoms, to take necessary action to self-isolate and take a COVID test. Additionally, those who are eligible or who haven't taken up their vaccination are still being encouraged to do so. As a council, we're continuing to operate a hybrid approach for members and staff to work from home and not to visit the council if they suspect that they have COVID symptoms or have tested positive for COVID. Moving then to consider the City Council. This will be the last time that we report on our strategic recovery aims, to which we committed as a Cabinet in July 2020, as we are moving to the development of a new corporate plan. Now, regular reports will continue to be presented to Cabinet on the ongoing delivery of the Council's work in response to the external impacts on our communities and businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have experienced an unprecedented time. But councillors, officers, schools, volunteers and communities have demonstrated how we can collaborate together to support our most vulnerable residents, to enable our businesses to continue to operate and to provide new opportunities for people to improve their lives. And when I reflect upon the experiences that we've been through, I really do have to give my most heartfelt thanks to all officers throughout the authority for what they have achieved in the face of great adversity. Through our EdTech programme, we've supported schools, pupils and families with over 9,000 devices, ensuring that pupils have access to homeschooling. And we've administered the free school meals payments to ensure that our vulnerable children remain fed. As a City Council, we've supported the NHS with the rollout of the vaccine programme, and we've delivered the Test, Trace and Protect system. This was an outstanding achievement across the whole of Gwent, coming together as public sector partners to implement this incredibly effective system, undoubtedly saving lives. We supported over 1,000 office-based staff with ICT equipment and office furniture to enable home-based and remote working. And we've supported our frontline workers across social services, city services and other departments to continue delivery of vital services and support for our most vulnerable residents. We've provided financial support, millions of pounds of financial support to hundreds of businesses across Newport. And in terms of recovery, we've enabled community groups through participatory budgeting to access funding and to support their communities in Newport. We've achieved so much that possibly 3 years ago, we would never have said what could be done. And we've been able to come together and do it to support our residents and support our communities here in Newport. Special thanks to all of our frontline workers during this period. I think it's sometimes overlooked that many of our frontline workers have continued to show diligence and dedication to their colleagues, to their roles, to the authority and to the communities that they serve. Often coming to work and really feeling quite anxious about their own personal situation and any health risks they may be experiencing, but ensuring that they continued in order to ensure that our citizens were safe. And a huge thanks to the work that's gone on through our hubs over the last 2 years and to our education professionals. Oh my goodness me, the outstanding job that you did in terms of providing care and support so to enable our key workers to continue working during this period was absolutely inspirational. It really is very sombre reflecting on this, reflecting on the achievements within the context of also recognising and mourning the losses that we've experienced here in Newport. But the challenges continue, colleagues, and we're currently in the midst of cost of living crisis. As a Cabinet, we're continuing to deliver and support key projects and initiatives across all of our wards and communities in Newport. As we emerge out of the pandemic, there continues to be ongoing global and economic impacts affecting our economy, including the cost of living for businesses and households. Many businesses and households are facing unprecedented inflationary increases in the cost of food, fuel, energy, and general living. Many households are having to make difficult choices, and over the next 12 months, this is going to continue to be a very, very difficult and challenging period. As a City Council, we're supporting the Welsh Government's initiatives in the administration of council tax relief, business rate relief, and the distribution of voucher schemes and grants. We're working closely with Gavo to support community food organisations with opportunities to obtain capital grant funding to support their initiatives. Newport is and will always be a city that welcomes people of all nationalities, faiths and beliefs. Having a diverse and cohesive city is important in the continuing development and growth of our communities, economy and prosperity. We're continuing to welcome Ukrainian families into the city who've been displaced by the conflict in their country and supporting them to find safe, secure accommodation to rebuild their lives. Once again, colleagues, our council services are going above and beyond to work together to ensure that families are well supported, and we've seen 100 approved visa applications issued to date. You may also wish to consider it, and certainly when looking at the information that has been provided as part of the PACs, how our particular individual service areas have responded to this and the continued contributions that they make. I'm delighted to highlight that we've been able to spend our full allocation of social housing grant. And we've supported 14 affordable housing developments across the city. That allocation of 16.3 million has been essential to us in terms of ensuring an increase in the supply of affordable housing. We've worked with Welsh Government to ensure that the Transitional Accommodation Capital Programme funding goes out to our registered social landlords to assist them to support the return of empty housing association properties and also of land and sites. The work continues, and I think it's important for all citizens to note that the report that we have before us today really is, in its finest sense, a true reflection of the commitment to public service that exists within and across the local authority. So at this point, colleagues, I'll pause and open for comments and contributions from Cabinet members. Would anyone like to comment on this item? Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, where do you begin is the first question. Like yourself, we've spent the last 2 and a bit more years thanking our staff and saying pretty much, I suppose, people would say the same thing every time we come online. It's not the same thing. They're dealing with their own health issues, their own families, their own problems, and yet they're still rocking in to work every day, putting all of that aside and still dealing with the residents of the city. I will never, if I live to be 1,000, be able to thank our staff right through from cleaners, right the way through in every aspect of what the council provides, all 800 services. And as for our teachers, sometimes people get fed up, oh, the teacher this, the teacher that. Will you just step back and understand those teachers are also dealing with a mental health crisis of our young people. They've been locked in for 2 years, and the only release they're getting is when they can speak to a teacher. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, never mind clapping for the NHS. Every one of them deserves the biggest pay rise they should be given. Never mind your MPs arresting that lunatic asylum. They should be ashamed of themselves for the paltry effort they've offered to all our staff. It's a disgrace. And shame on them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Harvey, and I concur with your comments on the government's proposals for public sector pay. Deputy Leader, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Leader. And I certainly support Councillor Harvey's words in relation to our schools. Our schools, I've said this before, they stepped up, our teachers stepped up. They became hubs at that point in time to support our key workers, but they also became hubs for our communities to turn to as a mental health crisis became rapidly apparent amongst our children. The breakdown of families, family cohesion became rapidly apparent. Our teachers have stepped above and beyond. We've had additional funding from Welsh Government to support them with ELSA training and support, so we can actually go out and support those children with emotional literacy. We have additionally, schools have gone out to support families with food poverty and clothing. There's so many things that our schools have become central hubs for. It's truly significant how important our schools now as a central point in our communities. But what I am grateful to Welsh Government for is the extension of the free school meal vouchers across the summer holiday. It's not, yes, we've got provision because of COVID illness, but we are now seeing a food crisis. There's absolute hunger because of the rising cost of living. And it's reassuring to know those vouchers are going to be there for those children who are going to need it. And we are going to see an increasing amount of parents and families turning to our food banks within our cities. This goes in hand with, we've actually now seen the restart of our breakfast clubs. I think there's just 2 in Newport that there are some staffing issues, but it's great to see those back in play because it's about children who are fed, who actually will learn. And I think that's going to be an ongoing focus and priority for us, as well as warmth as we move into the winter months. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. And you highlight issues that are going to be so important to us going forwards. Any further comments on this particular item? Okay then, colleagues, are you content to agree the report?
Happy with that, Leader.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Move to item number 11, which is the work programme. This is on pages 375 to 382 of the packs. Colleagues, this is our regular monthly report on the work programme. Are you content to agree this?
Happy with that, Leader.
Content.
Yeah, neat.
Tent.
Thanks very much for that, colleagues. We move then to item number 12 on our agenda today. This is a part 2 item, so at this point in our meeting,
So you're going to move the recommendation to exclude the press and public, and then we'll follow.
we need to move the recommendation to exclude the press and the public during consideration of the following item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt or confidential information as defined in Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and the exclusion outweighs the public interest in disclosure. Are colleagues content with that?
Yes.
Tent.
Yes, thank you.